The following is a special presentation of the Red Stick Business Report.
Andrews Allstate.
Watch future episodes on Soul of the South or contact your local cable provider.
Hi, welcome to this week's episode of the Red Stick Business Report Show. I'm Howard White, your host, and today I'm here with a very dynamic woman. You know, the Red Stick Business Report Show is designed to help you realize that you too can be the best person that you can be. The information that we discuss is not to impress you, but really to impress upon you that you too can make a difference in this community and in this world. So with no further ado, I would like to welcome our guest, Ms. Agnes Smith Andrews. Agnes, welcome.
Hi, Howard. I'm glad to be here.
You know, Agnes has a long resume of accomplishments, but just to wrap it up real quickly, you know, she's the agent owner of Allstate Insurance Agency here in Baton Rouge, dynamic businesswoman. I mean, someone who I personally admire. I don't know if I ever told her that, but just a lot of people look up to her for her business acumen. She's a mother. You know, her MWD, which is the most wonderful dollars on the set with us today, but wife and just a great family person too, and that's something that you don't see. A person that's very involved in the community, and we're going to talk a lot about that. Sometimes I think she does more community work than than she does Allstate work, but that's her great staff.
Yeah.
Agnes, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. It's certainly a pleasure to be here, and I too have been observing you as you started up in this community and looked like you just came on like a flame of fire, and being around as long as I have, I guess if you stay around long enough, somebody will eventually notice you. But it's really great, and I'm happy to see young people like yourself that come in and just take off, and it makes a seasoned person like myself really proud to think that we might have had some influence on somebody along the way.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to flash back to some of your early years. You know, we were joking earlier, I asked, she's from Pointe-Coupee Parish, but more importantly, from the city of New Roads.
Yay, Singletary.
Singletary.
I'm so proud of my upbringing in the country and the rural area. I think it just made us learn to really work and appreciate work and instant gratification for some things.
You know, I had a chance to interview one of your homeboys the other Saturday, General Russell Honore.
Oh, yeah.
And he talked about that, but talk about one of those persons, whether it was Miss Smith, Mr. Johnson, or that coach or that teacher that really poured into you and spoke to Agnes.
Yeah. I think what's poured into me more than anything was the things that happened that I could have taken it as a negative and gone the other way, but my father, that was the joy of my life. Of course, I love my mother as well, but my father died when I was 12 years old.
Wow. And
it left 6 of us at home with my mother, and my mother just encouraged me to know that I need your help. I had 3 younger sisters that were just a little bit younger than I, but I felt so compelled to help them to become successful, and they are very successful. So I think that what helped me to push was that I just had to.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a real valuable lesson, you know, taking what's giving you that obstacle and making it an opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, so you left from, what high school was it? 'Cause
Okay, well, just let me mention one other thing.
Okay.
You mentioned General Honore,
Right.
because General Honore mentioned my father in his book, because my father was the agriculture extension agent in Pointe-Coupee Parish, which was when he had an opportunity to work for General Honore. So I'm always so proud to say that my dad may have had something to do with General Honore's successes, and he mentioned it in his book.
Actually had a lot, because he talked about the fact that he wanted to be a farmer.
Yes.
That's what he wanted to be before he went to the military.
Yeah. He's a dynamic man, and I'm enjoying reading his second book, by the way.
Which is a great book.
Yes. But I think what I can say is that I started high school in the mid-'60s at Catholic High in New Roads.
Okay.
Very interesting time, somewhat difficult, but we made it through. We felt as though, and we're told as young people, you have an obligation to reach out and help the next generation, and this is your way to help. So we did that. I'm very happy that I did. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people, personalities, obstacles, hurdles, and the like. So after that happened, I graduated high school in 1970 and came to Southern University. Not knowing what I wanted to do career-wise, because at that time we were kind of encouraged not to go to college from the school that I attended, and stating that maybe we should get a trade. But my mother says, no, you're going to go to college. Your dad died and left a few dollars for you to go to college. You're going. So I said, okay, I will. What impressed me so much was the dean of the home ec department, Pinky Thrift, came to us and spoke to the freshman class and says, if you are interested in a career and if you do good in school, I can assure you a job, then you need to consider the home ec department. So that's what I wanted to hear.
So she came in and gave you a guarantee that you couldn't refuse.
I couldn't refuse.
You know, because a lot of people look at you as a successful businesswoman and don't realize it's not where you start, but what you learn and absorb along that journey.
Exactly.
And I call it a true journey. So let's talk a little bit about that. Being in home economics, graduated from Southern in 3 years, not 4, which nowadays we double that as students sometimes. But talk about what drove you to, to go ahead and really absorb all you can.
Yeah. And what a lot of people may not realize, and I know you do because you mentioned that your mother is a home economist. We had such a wide curriculum that we learned a lot of business classes in the home ec part that I was in. Of course, we had to have a teaching certificate, so I could teach, and I took a lot of science classes, so we could teach home ec, or we could teach science, or we could teach interior design or nutrition. It was just a lot of things. And my next project that I think I'm going to work on is I want to get in that home ec department and work with them.
Great, and that's, that just tells about your attitude of wanting to give back all the time. And we're going to talk a little bit about that with your first job, which was really a, I won't call it mission work, but it was, it was a mission. So I need you to stay tuned to the next, for the next segment of the Red Stick Business Report, as we talk about the Agnes transition from college to her mission work. All right.
Thank you.
Hi, welcome back to this segment of the Red Stick Business Report. I'm Howard White, your host, and I'm on set today with Ms. Agnes Smith Andrews of Allstate Insurance. And actually, she's the owner and operator of Allstate Agency. That's a difference now, because you can work for the company or you can own a piece of the company. And that's what Agnes chose to do. With that said, Agnes, let's talk a little bit about, we were talking about her early years and growing up in New Roads in that Pointe-Coupee Parish area, and then on into Southern University. But talk about that transition, because I think that's a critical part, whether it's a student at Southern or LSU or BRCC, that's watching this and saying, hey, what next? I've gotten this education, what next for me?
Yes. Well, I think you have to develop a burning desire for something. And my husband and I often kid about selling mousetraps. So if you're gonna sell mousetrap, be the best mousetrap seller that there is. So no matter what it is that you're doing, strive to do it better than the best. Strive to do it so good that even if you didn't get paid for doing it, you would do it.
Right.
And I think if you would embrace that, and I know that might sound coined, it sound like something your mama told you, but it's really the truth. So work as though it's your last day, that you got to get everything done today because you want to do your very best.
Wow, that leads to some long days, and that led to you going over to Lafayette Parish and really working in a rural environment.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, and the value, or one lesson that you learned from that experience and those people that you work with.
Well, first, when I was interviewed for the job, I was going to be working in the rural part of Lafayette Parish.
Okay.
And back then, that was in 1974, because I graduated in 73. So right after I graduated, I started working there. And they wanted someone that could speak or understand Creole, because then some of the people didn't speak, as they say, American. I had a little touch of Creole because of my mother. So as the person that was interviewing me for the job said, "Do you speak Creole?" I said, "Parlez-vous français?" And he said, "You got the job." So even though I didn't know a lot of Creole or French, I was able to show someone that I was willing to stretch
Right.
and flex and fit into what he needed for that position.
You know, we talk about stretching and fitting in and doing what's necessary. You know, you shared a little bit of how you met your husband, Donald Andrews, who's the dean of Dr. Andrews, who's the dean of the College of Business now at Southern University. But talk about that experience of, hey, we're married and now he's going to Texas A&M and you had to stretch and do something different,
Right.
totally out your comfort zone.
Well, I did not realize just how much it was out of my comfort zone until I got there. And then I learned real quick, I have got to flex. Well, there it was, at that point, it was 1975.
Right.
He said, my husband then said, my husband now, he said, "I want to work on my PhD. He says, "I want to be in academia and I want to be in education, so I really need to have a PhD." I said, "Well, no big deal. You get a PhD, I'm married to a doctor." So he got some assistantship to go to school, and he said, "Well, you know, you have a good job. You want to just stay here and work, or do you want to move to Texas?" I said, "Well, we had only been married a few months." I said, "Well, I want to be with my husband. I want to move to Texas." And so he said, "Well, you know, you may have a difficult time finding a job there because my teaching certificate was for Louisiana and not for Texas, and I just did not realize how difficult it was going to be. But I only knew this, that I was willing to work. And I said, even if I have to do work that I'm overqualified for, I'm willing to do it, because when you get through with your PhD, then life will be a whole lot better." And the promise was that I would never have to work again.
So that was either a promise that he hasn't kept or a promise you chose to let him off the hook with. And I'll take the second.
Well, once I started working, it became just like a part of my life. So I thought that that was the thing. Oh, I'll be a stay-home mom, have a house full of children like my mom did, and live happily ever after. But it never really worked that way, but I'm pretty happy.
You know, as we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about how did you wind up becoming an insurance agent and owning an agency?
Just everything just kind of just happened.
Yeah.
Being open-minded, being ready to take the challenge. When we got back here, well, we went to Texas A&M. Dr. Andrews completed his PhD. We moved back, and he was working at Southern University.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the latter 79, early 80, 1980. And so I came back, and I was working in Texas. My job was with Sears, selling, and we talked about that a little bit. I started out working in their warehouse, folding up towels and putting them on the
How
shelf.
you brought fashion to a warehouse. Yeah, I mean, that's...
Well, that's what I was doing, and I almost did, because without any children and having a lot of free time and having the tailoring skills that we learned at Southern University, I'd make a new outfit every week, and they'd walk in and say, "Now, who are you?" I said, "I'm the girl in the warehouse." "Oh, okay." So quickly after leaving the warehouse, I got placed on the sales floor, and I was selling, and then I started selling the towels and the sheets and the bedspreads and the floor rugs and the shower curtains and everything, coordinating it. And they said, "Well, that girl might be able to be on the sales floor."
Right.
So then I did. I started selling, and I then got on commissions. So I had never sold strictly on commissions. And that means you don't sell, you don't make.
Right.
And so my husband said, if you can get commissions, that's what you want to get.
Right, so here's a PhD, here's a doctor telling you what a prescription you need from a sales standpoint. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the agency and some of the things that you're involved in, such as the Gala on the Bluff and a lot of your give back, because a lot of your work really is giving back, and that's something I really want to highlight and stress when we come back with the next segment of the Red Stick Business Report. So stay tuned so you can learn a little bit more about Agnes and her give back and her working in the community. Welcome back to this segment of the Red Stick Business Report Show. I'm here with Agnes Andrews of Allstate Insurance, owner of Allstate Insurance. I keep saying of, and I got to make sure that I make that distinction. One of the things Agnes was saying about work earlier, and that was give it your all no matter what you're doing, and that's what kind of led her to that actually Allstate agency. She's here working at Sears on the floor selling, giving it her all, selling on commission because the doctor prescribed it to her, told her that commission is good for you. And here she is. Tell us about that transition from salesperson to insurance agent.
Yeah. Well, once I learned the value of being paid according to your effort, that's what commission is all about.
Right.
So if someone tell you that they're going to pay you on commissions and you're willing to work hard, then you'll make a good living. I learned that from working on commission in the floor at the Sears store, and that was what this job was going to entail at selling insurance. And anybody know that insurance people pretty much get paid. If they are an insurance salesperson, they're pretty much going to be paid on according to their efforts. And that excited me because I knew that was 30 years ago. I had a lot of energy back then.
I hate to see how you were if you had a lot then, because now you still have a lot.
Yeah, but 30 years ago, I started selling, and it was in the Sears store. Right. The person that introduced me to the idea of selling insurance was another agent within the Sears store as an agent with Allstate. Those of us that's in the 50-plus club may remember that Allstate agents used to be in a booth in the Sears store.
Wow.
Okay, so that's how I started back in 1985, and standing there selling insurance, just working the track of the company requirements, and I did that, and then the idea came about that the company wanted to involve the agents more into the neighborhoods. It had become more neighborhood oriented, and there came the program called the Neighborhood Office Agency. And I had only been with Allstate for 1 year, and I did not know that I was ready for that, because that meant I was going to be out there in an office all alone selling, and I didn't know that I was ready. But there again, I had a lot of encouragement from home, and my husband said, if you're ready. If you're not ready now, you never will be. And so I went on and jumped out there and started, and the rest is history, because as the company evolved from agent in the Sears store, neighborhood office agent, to agency owners. We are actually agency owners of our own little piece of Allstate. And I think that it's wonderful, because then I have the opportunity to have other people work, because you can't do it all. You have to kind of duplicate yourself, as you probably know. Have more people do what you do, make other people happy, make them pleased, and have them to go tell somebody something good about you, and then you stay in business.
And I tell you, you have a great team of folks.
I do.
Every time I go to the office there, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and I just would like to say that I have an agent that's with me, Diane Woods. She's been with me since day one.
Wow.
So if anyone say girls don't work together, well, that's not true. We've been together since day one, and I'm so proud of Diane.
Let's talk about that, because you having a good team allows you to do some things that you're really passionate about, and that's out in the community. I know you're Zeta. I see you at national conventions and traveling and doing the work of Zeta. But more important, let's talk about the Gala on the Bluff. It was an idea that I think you helped birth. Let's talk about that and tell a little bit about why it's important to support that event and a little history on it.
Right. Well, the idea of it came from one of my husband's classmates, a gentleman from North Louisiana, Lewis Henry, who's an extremely successful businessman in Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. Lewis came to Don with the idea, why don't we do this, and we can raise some scholarship money for students interested in your department. And I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. So we did. That was 11 years ago.
Wow.
And I knew that the process of putting this event on was quite costly. But as long as we were making a profit, and we could have an event that people can remember, have a good time coming to, and still make a profit, so that the monies will go for scholarships for deserving students, then I was on board with it. And so we have a wonderful event. This is the 11th annual Southern University College of Business Gala on the Bluff. I say it in my sleep. I say it a lot because it's so important. It's going to be this October 25th,
Fifth.
not this Friday,
Right.
next, October 25th at the Belle of Baton Rouge Casino and Hotel and the Atrium. We're having wonderful entertainment. We're having the Emotions. We're having Harry Anderson and the Jazzy Jazz Group, as well as Michael Ward's son, Sean Ward.
Right.
So we're having a great group, a great lineup, and the food is wonderful. It's dressy, not formal, but a dressy affair. So it's a real good time for people coming back home for homecoming, because it's the Friday night before Southern University's homecoming.
And I think two things I know Gala has become. One, it has become the signature event for homecoming.
Yes.
It's the destination event for homecoming, but more importantly, it is a catalyst for alumni to give to the College of Business.
Exactly. It is a scholarship fundraiser. We happen to have fun, but I remind myself every day that it's great that we're having fun, but we have to raise funds for students that really might need this help to push them over the edge of graduation, and that's what we want to happen.
Yeah, and I always tell folks when I'm working on nonprofits, you know, you go FUN, but don't forget the D, because that's that's the whole purpose of being here.
That's exactly right, and it's just great to see these young people graduate. It's great to see them with the correspondence that they send back to the university and to the other supporters of the event of how helpful this was to them. The monies that they receive that help them to be able to complete their degree and graduate and become gainfully employed, become tax-paying citizens to keep us all going.
You know, the thing you don't realize what difference that little money make, but as we get ready to wrap up, there's one thing I want you to leave the audience with is that one thing that Agnes Smith Andrews want to be known by, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road when your name is mentioned.
Yeah.
What is it that you will be remembered by?
I would like to be remembered as someone that really cared about people, that someone cared about the human race, that I really care that I want the world to be a better place because I was here. So whatever I can do so that my grandchildren's friends will say, that was my grandma. She worked on this project. She did something to make the world a better place because she was here.
And I can tell you, Agnes is definitely making a difference in this world. And you can help her make that difference by supporting Gala on the Bluff and helping the kids at Southern University. Agnes, thanks for being on the Red Stick Business Report show this week. I mean, it's been great getting to know a little bit more about you. And hey, listen to those ideas that she shared with us. So stay tuned for the next episode of the Red Stick Business Report.
Thank you.
All right.